Is getting stuck in the only way to play, or is more Dakka on the way? Whoa! Welcome to Wall Tactics. Today we're going to talk about how Dreadmob, More Dakka have come to the forefront for at least this past weekend. And does that have play for the rest of the meta and what is to unfold for orcs and the orc community? But of course, let's start off with the stats and the facts with Meta Monday. So of course he's changed his layout, so we're working through it together, y'all. So we have 51% orc win rate as of this last weekend. Of course, we have Dreadmob with 2 X and 1 listings. We are going to cover both of them. Yes, there was a Stompa. Now, what's also here is we have a More Dakka list that also went X and 1, and then we had 2 Warhorde lists that went X and 1. So a lot of good orc placings here that we're looking at. We still see good play for Green Tide with 3 players, Tactical Brigade with 3 players, but a 60% win rate. So even though they didn't get the placing, overall, all of those guys were doing quite well. So shout out to you guys. There was a little bit of hunt going on, but it was 1 player with 60%. So shout out to you guys. And then 3 guys with Bully Boys, still trying to find a way. We'll do a video on them at some point, and we'll see what we can get out of those gets. But orcs are looking good, and that's a positive. And as we see, new missions look to be coming out possibly in June. A data slate's kind of around the corner, which is kind of crazy to think about all the time, how quick the game goes by, which some might think is a down thing, a bad thing in itself. But we have to just face the fact that it's coming on its way. And as we've looked at all of these, lists throughout the past couple weeks and how the orcs have been doing, we aren't necessarily a menace, but we're able to contest with the top meta. We only have a couple that are even considered somewhat predatory, but it's really a high ceiling, faction, and the changing WAAAGH really made a difference. And the addition to new data sheets between the tank busters, the breaker boys, and that's something that we got to kind of point out, right? Is that it seems like tank busters are just extremely redundant and broad on every single detachment, to 2 to 3 in amounts. Now, some might say, well, that just clearly means that that's too strong. Well, while others might say, well, that's just indicative of what we have to counter, and that's our best tool against it. As to people, the whole meta as a whole, you see, dreadnoughts, they're about 135 points sometimes. You see armor hulls that are 95 points in guard. You see all types of just either highly durable, point per point, or are just kind of hard for us to break as orc players. And this is just the first and best tool that we have, most consistent tool. So it's broad, regardless of detachment. And even if it's not about its actual direct output, because all of us as the orc players know that it's simply it's not as simple as I bring tank busters and you're dead. It's I'm bringing the right detachment and I have the right character, and then I'm executing with them on the right timing. Which isn't to say it's the most strategic thing in the world, but it is not simply plug and play 3 tank busters and you auto delete everything. It's really about what it imposes itself on the field. So as we see the data slate coming, and everybody's focused on Dread and Warhorde and tank busters, is Dreadmob, More Dakka, also the Tactical Brigade still going to continue to have play. I mean, even if tank busters went up a little bit, they would still greatly have play. And on the flip side of that, orc players think breaker boys could maybe even come down if you really want to offset that without really kneecapping us, even though GW likes to kind of kneecap us sometimes. That would be what we would consider a somewhat fair balance. I don't think we need a ton of tweaking. Nobody's complaining and moaning about us just yet. But we're really consistent on team play. We're really consistent at the world, class level, where high-level players want to use this, and high-level teams want to consider this faction as well. So I hope GWs tread somewhat lightly and respectfully for all of our time and our players' sake. But today we're going to be looking at, like I said, the 2 Dreadmob list, and then the More Dakka list that slipped in there, because we all know, like I always like to say, exceptions don't make the rule, but it doesn't mean we don't like talking about the exceptions. But of course we do that. We got to do a shout out to our sponsor, the Baron of Dice. They make high quality custom dice, and if you enjoy our content, want to show some love, check out the Baron of Dice, including Wall Tactics official dice, to support us. Use our discount code in the description, because nobody likes taxes. So thank you to them. And of course, thank you to you guys that support them. And also check out our paint competition that's going on. We have the Stompa going out. So you could just win yourself some of those Baron of Dice and actually get stuck in, lads. So let's look at the first player that I want to look at. Not going to leave you guys on your toes, leave you treading. We have the Dread Mob. So the Dread Mob list is from Tim Schneider out of I'm gonna mess this up, like Munsterland Major. And we're gonna look at the list as a whole, as it has 120 players. I do have the missions. It was WTC layouts, and I actually do have the layout so we can look at. So even though I don't have notes from the player, we get a little bit of context here. Quite familiar with the Stompa in itself. And so let's take a look at the list real quick. As you know, I've been preaching, not to toot my own horn here, but I am collecting some teeth, that we've been preaching that the Stompa is viable since the codex dropped, and we got a lot of clapback from other people that just felt differently, and that's fine. We're all here, we're all orcs, we like that, but it's nice to see that we were onto something, right? We our big mechs were onto something, and this is what we see. Stompa continuously making its appearance every couple months, finding its way to the top, as we see here again. But now we see a little bit of a twist, a little bit of an addition, but we see the redundancy that we were talking about as we started the video. So we have at the live stream, and shout out to all you guys on the live stream. What's good? Whoa, to the live chat. All you guys, what's up? All you guys started getting here early. Murder Mouth to Balls. What's up, Jank? Yeah, everybody here. Shout out to you guys. And yeah, Bully Boys was here. Of course. Hey, what's up? Your first live. Yeah, thanks for getting the chat. Make sure you guys interact with that poll real quick, because we got to know what you little big bosses are thinking. So, the Dread Mob Stompa. We have Zagra Wartsnaga, triple Big Mac with shock attack gun, and then a mech. Not too creative here on you gets, but that is not to discourage you that Stompa can be played with other tools and utility as well, as we've done videos on that, so don't worry about it. But as we always talk about, if you're talking about highest level and you want the most consistent results, a lot of the time people are going to bring just the consistent, reliable units. Now, attaching the big max here, of course, give them access to the button, then they access the big shells for bigger gets, which typically you don't really need too often unless you're offsetting with -1 to hit, and then you want actual additional damage. But a lot of the time, the Stompa is eating absolutely all of your CP, like we always talk about. What I do like about the list is he brought plenty of grots. So he did bring 4 minimum size units of grots, and then a big brick for Zagra Wartsnaga, 2 trucks, and then a Stormboy unit, and then, like we said, the Stompa. So obviously, Stormboys for scoring secondaries. Trucks are for at least one of those tank buster units to be embarked. If not, you put 2 of them. Some people can obviously understand that you take a truck and put Gretchen inside of it, and you play the early game package of I can just drop a bunch of OC on this objective, make you come out to play and shoot at it, and then the Stompa can start getting taken off. Not to mention the tank busters themselves. The Stompa has gap transport capacity, so you can stick some grots in there if you feel like you might be getting pressured and needed to come out, and then reactive move to get in the way from counter-charging units. So having plenty of grots is a big deal, especially when everything else is rockets. But let's take a look at the meta and why having so many rockets is so important, because even though it looks like it's a plug-and-play thing, it's because, well, if they're giving you these, fish in a barrel, as we like to say, then you might as well take them if they're going to give our tank busters all these options. So let's look at what the meta is. For some reason I'm not slowing down here for a second. Let me pull that back so you guys don't see my logo and stuff. But yeah, I think I've shown and said, and a lot of the time, that we've been running the Stompa and having a good time and having results from it. Here we go. I don't know why I did that. And I think it's just what the meta is giving us all makes tank busters just obvious, because their duality of ability isn't. They're good at fighting, they got bombs clicks, they're good at shooting, excellent at shooting, and they get the button. So right off the bat, mission 1, make sure I press that again correctly because I was pressing too quickly. Tim, yeah, we're in the right one. All right, cool. Going into his first game is into Eldari. You've devoted 2 of your need. That's funny. All right, Artark, Visark, and then Yavrin, Corsair Void Reavers, Wave Serpent, Venom. I've never even seen that Ynir Venom. 3 Dark Reapers, 2 Fire Dragons. So as we have looking at as our community, well, we have 3 tank busters. Well, look what we're seeing from even the Eldar players, bringing multiple tank busting capacity units, right? We have Fire Dragons and these Reapers, which are all considered at least light armor popping able. So it's not just us that's tuning into the redundant anti-tank model that we see here. And for you other orc players that are watching this, that's why. Now, are there substitutes? Yes. So don't be discouraged. Not to the same degree, but there's substitutes of units you can bring. So then we have 2 Howling Banshings, 2 Scorpions, a Swooping Hawk, 2 units of Warlock Skyrunners, and then 2 Warp Spiders, followed by a Wraith Lord and Yanari Incubi. So the good thing about that is we do actually have a little bit of range on them because the Death Dread, its guns are quite viable. I mean, the Stompa itself, guns are absolutely annihilating any and multiple of those vehicles that come out to play, and then all the rest of small arms fire, the duality of the tank busters, running these guys down. Now, as for the mission, I did have the notes here. Let me pull it up because I was being a little getting a little ahead of myself. It was Crucible of Battle, WTC layout 4-5, GW, take and hold, raise banners. And my boy has obviously a good amount of battle line with this magnitude of grots. So I actually have it. We're make sure I put it, you guys, because I was getting too excited. There it is, man. All right. So this for you, my fellow Americans, is Crucible of Battle -4-5. As I'm looking for my little pen. I move, there it is. You guys see me moving my head around. If you're watching me, I'm looking around like, where's my pen? So if you guys aren't familiar, just to point out to you guys, try to make it easier to see. Like green. These red base L-shaped pieces are 5 inches tall. We do have it up on here. Actually, I could just show you the rules for you guys to look real quick if you're bored, or not if you're bored, but if you pause the video. So they are 5 inches tall. That means the Stompa's ability to walk over terrain pieces wouldn't apply to them. So that is going to be a factor. Now, if you are loading up, obviously, your big boy Stompa somewhere right here, you can walk up and touch both of these things and be able to look over and through them and shoot at them. So you can shoot at guys in this objective, the middle objective, and this objective. So if you stage yourself with the Stompa generally right here, and then have tank busters on multitudes of flank, followed by grots as a big wave, that would work. Also, the multitude of grots allow you to obviously screen your backfield so they don't get behind you. This terrain in itself allows you to stage the grots that disembark from the Stompa to run out and flip that objective if someone decides to just touch it and you can't really shoot them and they don't like die. If they try to get into combat with you, you can reactive move with this grot unit staged here for the Stompa. That would be generally roughly around here. Not to mention that Zod can stage in the same exact terrain piece if he needs to, or he'll just go out and fight for what we would consider natural expansion. Well, in this one, actually, this would be natural expansion, generally speaking, and this would be this natural expansion. So I think Stompa definitely freaking has play when I look at it from that degree, but it would take repetitions, in my opinion, to understand where you're going to get engaged from and understanding the range of those Eldar units. Can you imagine all the grots just like shooting their pistols every turn, like when the Eldar comes out and he decides to full commit to the Stompa and Zod, because they have to commit to Zod, and it's going to take a bunch of their army to kill Zod. So everybody always wonders, like, well, they're going to kill the Stompa. Well, Zod allows you to keep people at arm's length away, force them to commit to Zod, and then Stompas and everybody else gets to pick them up. So let's move on to his second game where he did end up losing, but it was a good game. Good game. Now, this mission, I have it right here, is Search and Destroy Layout 3. Mission linchpin. Again, we have raised banner. So I'll show you WTC layout 3 in a second. Actually, I'll just pull it up real quick so we don't forget to show. But he did go into Space Marines, right? And every person that's playing any kind of mechanized unit or army knows that Space Marines are quite consistent at damaging us. So we have Manius Calgar, Rubute Gilliman, Judiciar, Lieutenant, 2 units of assault intercessors, Blade Guard, Desolation Squad, 2 scouts, 2 ballistas, a lancer, and an impulsor. Now, at first glance, you may think, well, Space Marines just oath and then kill Stompa. No, they don't. They don't necessarily have the consistent just one-shot unit that will heal. It will take combined effort from the lancer, the ballistas, oath, and where's the other gets that we're up here, the Desolation Squad, to really damage it. So it comes down to what can you get out of your Zod and your tank busters, what are their actual roles, because a lot of the time that person's going to understand I got to keep my dreadnoughts safe from your one Stompa that's annihilating it, and the Stompa can't really go too many places. So I personally, even though I played a lot of Stompa and Dread Mob, I personally haven't played the WC's layout with the Stompa. And like I said, this space, because you can't walk through, you can't make it through here. So this is not a viable deployment spot. Everything is just kind of simple, where you're only limited to this staging location and then just kind of walk out. And I'm not sure if there's an exception of this rule or something that allowed him to fit through here. But each of these squares, if you guys aren't familiar as newer players, when you look at these layouts, each of the squares is 1 square inch, right? 1 inch. So you can see between here, it's about 7 inches between here. And Stompa's, I believe, 8 inches in width. So I'm not sure how you would be able to maneuver. It's really about just committing to touching either these two and looking through, or touching these two and then looking through, while your tank busters, your trucks, everybody else kind of gets engaged. Really, with Space Marines, and I can't stress this enough to my fellow Ork players, we know that they can kill us very effectively. Sometimes it's about you calling the wall just to get into a combat with them or engage with them on your terms, getting Zod to have his invuln, and then getting them the full commit, as well as allowing Zod, his Grots, and whatever other skirmish units you have to get up there and start killing his skirmish units. If you can touch/kill multiple units of scouts, tag the ballistas, dreadnoughts, maybe fight some intercessors and pick those guys up, stay away from the Blade Guard veterans. There's times that you can just really force the enemy to commit, but then lose a lot of his scoring/maneuvering assets, which means he really just has to overcommit to Zod to a certain degree. And your skirmish units, that's where you can get activations. Not as easy to do as you would think. Sometimes I've just straight up wad. I've even recently into Librarius, where they were very aggressive, very strong army. I didn't feel like I had all the assets to just fight them toe to toe if I let them take any of my assets. So I ended up calling a turn 1 WAAGH. And even then it's really, really rough. And so it's sometimes, so he did a great job here. He understood the matchup. So kudos to him. And I can't say exactly how he played it out, because like I said, it was mission linchpin. So you do need to retain your home, which we're planning of doing with that dread mob. With those Grots, you can do. And you do have to obviously play and contest those primary for that. So he did a good job. It's just easier said than done against Space Marines, which are that one matchup that can reliably like one Rabute Gilliman into Stompa. Ooh, no sucks, right? And then you got Calgar roaming around being annoying. So yeah, it's all good. Great job, Tim. So using the Stompa, I'm sure that guy was sweating. The Space Marine was sweating. So let's look at game 3 here, which was Crucible Battle, WTC layout 4-5. This was GW mission M. Purge the foe, and then rapid escalation. Oh, you guys know Orcs typically don't like Purge the foe. This is one of our more rough matchups sometimes. But when you got a Stompa, suddenly it's not so bad. And shout out to you guys. Yeah, I missed my Grot tanks. Can you imagine just if we still had Grot tanks and Estus for Dread Mob? I remember when the Codex was coming out and people were looking at Dread Mob and they were like, Grot tanks, Dread Mob, this is outrageous. And it was. And now we don't have it. So I don't want to stay too much on that, get everybody hyped. But if you're allowed to play Legends, use your freaking Grot tanks. So again, we're back to Crucible layout 4-5. And the matchup was the Necrons, Awakened Dynasty. So we have Hexmark Destroyer, Overlord with Translocation Shroud. Yeah, I English. Scorpec Lord, Technomancer. 5 Flayed ones, 10 Lynch ones, 3 Ophidian Destroyers, 1 6-man unit of Scorpec Destroyers, 2 3-man units of Scorpec Destroyers, 2 Locust Destroyers, a big brick of Canoptic Wraith, and then 1 Canoptic Reanimator, and 2 units of Doomsday Arcs. So I don't think, not to be rude, they don't necessarily have a lot for your Stompa. Doomsday Arcs are respectable in damage, but they got to roll super hot. And then something like your Gatling Onslaught cannon with big shells for bigger gits, re-rolling for more Dakka, can totally annihilate either Canoptic Reanimator or Doomsday Arc on its own, because that gets up the damage 3. And not all the tank busters are on this list. So tank busters go great into all of these 3-wound units, which are obviously the Scorpec Destroyers and the Ophidian Destroyers. It's not so easy when you don't really know. I don't really know exactly how he was interacting with the middle terrain other than Zod. The middle objective other than Zod. So I'm inclined to believe Zod was playing a big factor in him being able to keep this primary and having all those Grots, because like I said, I'm not sure how he's getting to there with the Stompa with this spacing here. This spacing was the most that I've seen that seemed possible that he could get here. So that would be sick if he was actually able to get between there, fit the Stompa nice and neat. It was pretty close based off what I've seen there. So Yeah. So one thing here, looking at the chat. Yeah, you guys, what's up? And that was a 19 point huge win. So I would say if they're playing this, because let's see if I can measure it out with you gets again, because I was doing this before the stream. So 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Let's say 7 to be generous inches across. I can go grab my Stompa again right now. I think he's just about 8 last I checked. Chat. Go measure your Stompa and report back. No, I'm just kidding. I thought it was a triple knots list. Dang, you wish it was a. Dang, I thought it was a triple knots list. That'd be pretty crazy, man. You know what? Somebody has to do it. And with enough support, I'll be the one to do it for you. No, just kidding. I'll try. All right. So, yeah. So shout out to him winning that Necron matchup. Freaking love Zod in that matchup. To be honest, it takes so much for them to commit, and he can just end up one-on-oneing, assassinating characters, punching up and punching out whole units of Ophidians by himself on the wall. It's pretty awesome. Then we go into this game 4, which looks to be a close game, 13. Yeah, see, Stompa's like 7 wide. Yeah, and that's 7 WTC across. So as long as they were generous and they allowed him to get through there, that really changes the dynamic of the game. Because as I just measured right here, based off these squares, that's 7 across. So it's like if your Stompa's is like 7 wide, that's what I'm saying. Mine is like 7, 8. I forgot if I just rounded up when I was playing with it to be generous or what. But let's look at his 4th game. Oh, wait, I just clicked on him. That was not on purpose. All right, so then we go into this 4th game, which was into the Tyranids. So surprising how this mission was actually so close, but it was tipping point, WTC layout 3, GW take and hold, raise banners again. So they're playing, from what I've seen, take and hold twice on this for layout for mission 1. So I guess they just wanted you to play it one time at least on both layouts. Yeah, because on day 1 on mission 1 it was on layout 3. So or on mission 4-5. So now we're on layout 3 for mission 4. Let me scroll over to mission 3. Sorry about that. It's all a little slow, man. There we go. A little too fast now. All right. Okay. Then we were in mission 3. So let me look at this Tyranid list, because typically with your Stompa, you're like, well, my Stompa annihilates any Tyranid monster, yeah, we have more Dakka that went 4-1, I believe. So we have we're going to look at after this. So we have Tyranid Invasion Suite. We have the Swarm Lord, Hive Tyrant, Neural Tyrant, 2 units of Hormigons, Biovore, double Gene Stealer units, 2 Lictors, Neurogaunt, double Exocrine, a Maliceptor, and then 2 Tyrannofex. So Tyrannofex are those 2 weapons that can actually very, very much hurt the Stompa. Respectably. Now, it's not reliable. Not reliable. When the Stompa claps back, it can reliably and utterly annihilate one of those Tyrannofexes, but your Mega Rocket is not reliably killing the second. That's kind of the downfall with the Stompa, where if there's 2 extremely, durable, because in this detachment you can pop a 5-up, feel no pain for this Tyranid army. He has a 2-up. He can be mine, obviously going to has cover, so he's still going to take some armor saves on the and then on that he's going to take 5-up, feel no pains on his 16 wounds. So you can utterly annihilate one with the Death Cannon, and then your Mega Rocket, if it pops off, you can totally annihilate the second one too. But a lot of the time that means going to take multiple activations. So he's busy in gunfights with these Tyrannofexes, and you still got to deal with everything else. As Lictors, Gene Stealers, which are going to get early game and want to try to chew into your Zod unit before you get to WAAAGH, which absolutely would suck. So this mission does come with its own challenges, as well as Tyranids like to play the game just like us when it comes to we're willing to flip bodies for points. Double Hormigons units, they have OC, and then when it comes to Shadow of the Warp, I mean, I've had big swings in games where nothing passes the Shadow of the Warp, and I get 0 primary. I can't really do secondaries. I'm stuck just trying to kill them, and it makes the game either close or it's lost the game for me. So it's like that can be a big indicator in itself. But for take and hold being a simple mission, 13-point win. All right. So then we go into the good job, because I'm saying Tyranids, you never know, bro. They're all over the place sometimes with what can happen in the Ork matchup with them. Yeah, he said when to measure. Stompa is 5.51. from belly to butt and 7.5 wide. Yeah, okay, here we go. The Stompa is 6.5 and the WTC spacing is 7 based off what we just measured here, at least on some of those spots. So let's see here on layout 3. Let's see. Because I thought it was 7, like 7, 8 as well, but now I'm saying 6.5 from the belly. I didn't even think to measure him correctly from the belly. Wide from belly to butt. So yeah. So if he turns him sideways, all right, cool. What would be the biggest gap here? That still wouldn't be that big here. That would be, sorry, that sucks. That was a crappy line. That was a crappy line. Not good lines. 3, 4, 5, 6. So he wouldn't be able to get through here. So on this layout, he doesn't seem to be able to go anywhere for sure. On still on 3, he really couldn't go anywhere. Okay, as I thought it was that one spot he possibly could. Oh, but this is Crucible. Sorry, it says Crucible Battle on there. Sorry, I should be showing you guys tipping point. But that looks like it's gonna be lagging like that as well. By the way, but I'm not trying to deal with that lag right now. Sorry. So yeah, you know the layout. I mean the deployment lines. All right, so. So that's the layout, though. Okay, we're just looking showing the layout. So then we go into his last game, which was into the Leagues of Voltan, or like I like to call them, mini Marines. So this was tipping point WTC layout 3, and then GW mission C, which is Linchpin Fog of War. So like I said, here's layout 3. I know this is Crucible, but I'm not going to scroll to it. My boys have variety on that WTC at least. So we have the Brokir Ironmaster, an Iron champion. 2, okay, nice. 2 unit of their battle line Hearthcare Wars, which is cool because they can combat squad separate and then take their special weapon somewhere. 3 units of Sagitar. 2 units of Chthonian Berserkers. Their field no pain is pretty awesome. They get at damage 3. They can get +1 hit, +1 to wound because of Oath. Well, their version of Oath, Grudge. The mole grenades, if they ever do hit you, they can and they roll 4+, they can debuff your movement capability. So these guys are pretty cool. I think I've always liked them. For 200 points, they're pretty awesome. 2 units of Hackathon Land Fortresses, and then 1 unit of Brokir or Pioneers, a big brick, and then 2 small units of Pioneers, and then 1 Jaeger for infiltrate. So what I was thinking off the top of my head, like while I was reading those, was their version of the Terminator was substituted for all these berserkers, which means you don't have the massive grenade launcher blast, which is going to utterly annihilate one-shot Zod, which totally changes the dynamic of this game. Because once Zod gets called off, because these guys definitely do have the capability to screen and then they infiltrate because these Jaegers, then they can reactive move. Everybody else is trying to scout, but because their army's nature of it's slow and it's really using its transport, scout capability, its movement, it wants to get towards you, create a big line barrier of trash, and then put their big killing stuff behind it, kind of get out and trade with you, get some grudge tokens on you, then effectively kill you, tank a little bit on their little feel no pain homies and their tanks. And hope you don't. And the fact that you have a Stompa that can reliably pop a fortress, you know, and you have Zod that can go out there and touch and wrap and keep everything's arm length while you systematically pop things with your tank busters, is pretty sick. Now, of course, they can fall back and shoot for 1 CP and do their thing. And there's a chance between all of these Sagittars and the land fortresses that they could stomp, like Alpha hurt your Stompa, but a lot of time they want to get grudges on them first to have the reliability. Otherwise, he's going out and annihilating them instead. So big win right there, 19-point win. Not necessarily super surprising with some of those matchups that we've seen, but they had plenty of tanks, some of those armies, and had firepower to pop him, and still he was able to overcome based off your utilization like Zod a lot of the time. Because if someone has a tank, anti-tank unit, well, they have to stage safely to stop your Stompa from being able to advance, shoot and charge, and tag a building and shoot at them. So they've most of the time will at least be somewhat defensive, meaning that if Zod can get off on them first, touch them and keep them out of the line of fire to shoot the Stompa, which can happen with your body blocking. Watch the Zod video that we made on here and how to use Zod. You can take advantage of that. Like if it was Imperial Knights, for example, touching Imperial Knights with Zod is horrific for them, to stopping them from getting where they want to go. So with that being said, shout out to our homie. Yeah, if he turns sideways, he can scoot past them. I know, I love it. I'm super excited. That's great for the, like when you're when you're going past the movie theaters, stop shuffling, like, excuse me. Ah! Dakka is a way down. So Zod, triple sag, of course, get finder goggles because it's sick. Mech, 5 units of Gretchen. 4 of them are minimum sized units, 2 trucks, 1 storm boy, triple tank busters, and then the Stompa. Shout out to Tim going 4-1 and showing everybody that the Stompa's alive and kicking, and it's here to stay, and it's real to play. So we move on. And hello to Jay Hoon. Whoa, shout out to Antonio, by the way, for going and measuring that. Really happy to see that. But we're here with the More Dakka. So we have Juan Manuel Sanchez Molina going 4-1. Now, I actually do have let me make sure I have his mission pack stuff, but I'm pretty sure I have his mission pack stuff right here. Let me take down some of these slides real quick to you, chat, so I don't get overwhelmed and messy. There we go. There we go. Yes, I do. I moved them over here. All right, cool. Nice. So we do have the actual missions he played and what layout he was on, at least, even though I do not have notes from the player, at least as of today. But we've finally seen the More Dakka list come to fruition. Yes, absolutely love to see it. And there's a lot of cool things here, even though we know that we're seeing triple tank busters again. When you see this Big Mac check at that gun, yes, you're seeing that, but there is some caveats here and some interesting dynamics, a good amount of units variety. So let's take a look at this. And yeah, I'm still taking More Dakka, the team tournament next weekend. Yeah, what's up, Jay Humes? Yes, it absolutely still does have legs, as we're seeing here with one. And it's not just, oh, we suddenly realized this as the org community. If we go into the fixed star list we do every month, I actually suggested More Dakka to 2 people from our members community to run More Dakka, and they've been having a good time doing it and having a successful time doing it. I just think it takes one of those a little bit of passion and investment projects. Legs. So trying to get you out there, boy. What's up? So yeah, I'm actually really happy to see this, so we can take a look at this list, and I kind of reinvigorate people who want to like take a shout out and look at More Dakka. So we have Big Mac with the dead shiny shooters. That's crazy, of course, if you're getting rapid fire to tank busters, which you absolutely are, because as we spoke about in our tank busters breakdown, our dreadnought breakdowns, for example, as well, we've said several times, is if you're taking the Big Mac and you attach him to tank busters and he's getting the pulsar, he's still getting to -3 AP with his custom Mega Blaster with his baseline 3 shots. And then, now you're giving him a rapid fire on that, and you're obviously giving him sustain on that. He himself having damage 3 is pretty awesome. Then now he's going to be assault, so that means him re-rolling his advances on his data sheet and then being able to move through screens is pretty sick. So if there's something in the way to try to bog you down so they can shoot, so you don't shoot something you want, well, these guys can move through it, shoot at it, and then charge something else or reback charge it to a screen that's next to it after they shot that. So typically people will put trash in front of their tanks and hope orcs will run in to punch it. Well, think this tank busters unit's going to run up, shoot that tank, annihilate it, and then run into that screen or that mid-size, a Space Marine assault unit and Space Marine unit, and then pick that up as well. Pretty sick. I absolutely love it. So 2 Big Mac with shock attack guns, of course, also getting the other tank busters. Then you have the baby Mick, followed by 2 war bosses. Love to see that there's 2 war bosses on the list because there's 2 units of breaker boys on the list. Then we have 2 trucks, followed by a battle wagon with RK, staff roller, grabbing claws, lava, breaker, and then the zap gun. Now, yes, the zap gun. I agree. First of all, the other guns are straight up trash if you're trying to keep the trip capacity to its max. And not only is it trash, but it takes time. And you don't want to waste time. So really it's about, oh, my zap gun gonna hit something, boom, roll it, just see what it does it off, cool, awesome. If I get it, I get extreme damage from it. If I don't, whatever, I didn't waste time rolling all these dice. That's something that I want to advise to other orc players. Don't, high management is a factor, especially as you can see he has a healthy amount of units on this list. So I like that he actually cut down on time and he just looked for damage here. I do the same exact thing with my battle wagon, exclusively zap gun city. So 2 units of breaker boys. I think if you're not playing Warhorde, you're not playing unit saturation of I just bring 5-6 trucks with a lot of units, MSU units all over the field and threat saturate the opponent, so nothing's valuable, therefore everything's valuable. If you're not playing that style archetype, then I do strongly advise to breaker boys for the war boss because 1, stops you from getting bogged down if you get charged by something. I mean, sorry, if you charge into something. So if there's something that requires too many volumes of 2 wound units, like a 10-man unit of 2 wound units, you want to be able to punch through with the Warboss and your Breaker Boys, not get bogged down by the fact that you are low volume of attacks by this unit, but you're also hitting on 2s and you lack sustain that you would normally have here. Now, of course, depending on the dynamic and where it's at, you could possibly call one of these guys for 2 CP. Now, do I see it possibly happening? You typically not, because they're going to be within transports and be getting out, and that's pretty much what they're going to be doing a lot of the time to stay safe. But if you can disembark them, make them safely stage, and then do the wall with them independently, that could be cool. Now we have 3 5-man units of flash kits, the Skirmish Kings, and we do a flash kits video. Go check that out, what I mean by that. But the flash kits are just point for point the best skirmishers. Now, boys are also sick for skirmish for 80 points, which is crazy considering they're the same point value. But the fact that they shoot and fight, and they have better armor saves, and they're smaller profile, and they fit within SWAT teams is what really makes them the king of the skirmish. So bringing 3 of them is great. I absolutely love that. I find myself doing that a lot of the time. 10 becomes unruly, but 5-man units are absolutely excellent, especially for like SWAT teams, as we talked about. A big unit of grots on this. So at first I was like, well, that was a bit surprising because there's no Zagrat, right? Because a lot of the time people are like, well, if Zod's on the list, that's the only time you're going to see a big brick of Gretchen. But like we've spoken about in how to use Gretchen videos, we have as well. A big brick of Gretchen can be used to simply screen your entire backfield, force the enemy to retain the Call the Horde card, and maybe use CP to discard it. And you've completely secured your backfield. And if someone decides to kind of threaten or attack it, you have a bunch of OC and bodies to just try to maintain it. And if it's the wall, they can really bog it down. You can use a CP to just make them auto pass morale as well if dudes start dying. And you have the multiple run herders, so one of them can take like small arms fire saves if someone's just shooting bolters at them, for example, and even make the unit procrastinate in its lifespan more than anyone would even expect from a basic 80 point 2 wound trash tier model, right? But it's extreme value. Absolutely love it. I would personally like to see maybe if you had another one so you have some flexibility on how to move them. But clearly this is I just screen my whole backfield. Everything's going forward. Totally respect, because when we're talking about how you play More Dakka in its current form, it is very much about a combined arms version of executing a similar gameplay style to Warhorde. Right, so on Warhorde list, you see people bring the melee and then some shooting capability, and their focal point is the damage from the shooting capability. Well, it's somewhat the inverse here. You still have good, valuable punching units, but you're really taking advantage of your utility of assault. On top of that, which is still executing on the wall, because you're doubling down on the investment, because you need the sustain from it to make it go off and actually get the damage from the shooting units. But it does require the same kind of timing, setup, and then staging and kind of units that you're using. So I like it. I think it's really sick. And I think that he brought a lot of redundancy of 3 damage, which is what you need right now in the meta. 2 units of commandos to really keep the enemy kind of off you is very important, and we've talked about this since Prime Nexus with Mandos lead the way. But just keeping your game of I can play infiltrate and participate in that part of the game, which is simply another like turn in itself of the game, is important. So if you can use it for staging to stop yourself from getting parking lotted, to harass the enemy themselves, be in great position for your strategic reserves, whatever it may be, Mandos lead the way. So check that out, Mandos 101. But 2 5-man units to Storm Boys, and then of course the dreaded, the loved triple tank busters. So let's take a look at my boy's path to victory, because he was fighting it. It was a good fight. He was fighting uphill because he wasn't getting the biggest margin differences, which means he was having good games. Which to me, it's like, well, if you don't win the whole event, as long as you're having a great games, it's like, what else could you really ask for, right? As long as you're having great games and having a winning stat line, it's like, what else can you ask for? So very exciting. So, of course, this was point differentials, like we said, and then I have I think my boy's missions right here. So, I'm doing a thing where I click too happy and excitedly. So, very simple. Playing day one. Day one was terrain layout 1 from GW. So this was mission E, take and hold, prepare position, hammer, and anvil. So for his first opponent, it's not orcs. I just had that up. Shout out to the chat. What's up? Chat's popping off. Whoa, make sure you guys do that poll. Let me check on that poll because I got to make sure you guys are doing it. I'm going to start getting stuck in with you guys. Oh man, boys are still pretty heavy on Warhorde. I don't blame you. Warhorde's fan freaking tastic. But just interested to see. So keep it up, guys. So yeah, with Warhorde's winning that. So let's take a look at his first matchup. Because I'm interested in what More Dakka did. And he went into Raven Guard Gladius Task Force. So we have Captain in Gravis Armor, Chaplain in Jump Pack, and then Craven Strike. That's the name. Strike, right? Right? Okay. Intercessor Squad unit. Now, funny enough, 3 big 10-man breaks of Jump Pack Assault Marine Intercessors. Absolutely love that. We have 2 units of Ballistas Dreadnoughts, followed by a big brick of Inceptors, 1 unit of Incursors, 2 units of Predator Destructors, a Scout Squad, 1 Storm Strike Speeder, and then a Caladius Assassin. Now, what I would always say is what we know as Orc players is bringing a bunch of 2-wound guys doesn't typically go your way, especially when we have a ton of flash kits and they actually have the capability to advance and shoot. So even with your assault staging is not necessarily that safe. He has all the weapons to really deal with these guys, but they have the initiative with speed. So as for the mission, the impact from the mission of it being taken hold and means that he can kind of contest primary little by little and kind of drip feed the game out until he's able to fully commit as a Raven Guard player or dissect the army. Now, I'm not going to pretend I know exactly how that Raven Guard list plays because that's quite dynamic and cool. But from what I understand, they can still systematically kill a lot of the little orc skirmishing type of units very effectively with speed. So like commandos, quit and be safe. Your dudes in trucks are going to get out and get staged up and trapped. So this might be one of those games where you put all 3 of your tank busters in a battle wagon and to some degree just to keep them all safe in that one spot and then all commit them. Because this is one of those matchups where they can come take the initiative from you, and Orc players absolutely hate that. So even though it looks like, yes, they're soft, I can kill all that stuff, well, they getting the initiative on you and kind of move locking you with any of our shooting detachments can be a weakness in itself. So yeah, and like we see with layout 1, really good for just staging up in this middle terrain. Right, just easy, just stage up on there. Jump Pack Marines can somewhat fit here. Small units, Scouts Marines can fit right here. Force you to try to commit and interact with them. If not, they'll pick them up and bring them later into the game back somewhere over here. Now he does have those big grot unit, but you can't necessarily just let people drop their scouts wherever they want and score all the secondaries they want. So this is a very bang it out kind of layout. And he has that big unit of Gravis. What is that? Gravis Captain, which we all know that dude can sometimes just tank too much damage and start really making a menace on the field. So shout out to him in that 13-point win. And move on to his game 2. What's up? I like tactical until tank plus is getting hit again, and then I move Warhorde to Green Tide. That's extremely fair, right? We have to know exactly how GW is going to react, or if they're even going to act. There's a chance that they may be reasonable. I don't usually give GW the benefit of the doubt, but there's a chance. So now I move on to game 2, which is going into Drakari. So let me look at what the game was again. So this is game 2, mission M, Purge the Foe, Rapid Escalation, Crucible of Battle. So if we don't hate Purge the Foe, Eldari absolutely don't like Purge the Foe. So we have Drakari. We have Archon, a unit of Beastmaster. Ooh, like we were talking about the infiltrate game, boys. Important when you're going against Beastmasters because they got that infiltrate and fast boys. Drazar, Lilix, Hekparas, and then this urinal guy. All right, what's his name now? Cabalite Warriors. Break up. Sorry, Drakari guys. Rax, unit of Witches, 3 Venoms, a Chronos, Helion, Incubi. 2 units of Mandrakes here, some more infiltration game. Well, the other guys are in Scouts, but you get what I'm saying. They're playing the early game. 2 2-man units of Talos, and then a Void Raven Bomber, followed by a unit of Sky Weavers. What's up, Wicked Joe? Whoa, nice to see our boy Wicked Joe out here. So, like we spoke about as Orc players, if you're going to play this, any form of Dakka, whether it's More Dakka, Dread Mob, whatever you call, you liking tactical, you need to keep units in your back pocket that can actually keep enemies at arm length when you're building your list. So in this case, we have Bandos to interact and keep the Mandrakes off you, to keep the Beastmasters essentially off you, because Beastmasters have a big scouting. I think it's about 9-inch scout, and then it's a weird unit with multiple different data sheets, as you can see. But each of those units has like a blade of wounds, and then they also have like 10-inch movement or 12-inch movement, which is excellent for blocking, stopping a wagon, stopping trucks, just standing in the way. So they can just kind of jailing you and then really take the initiative off on you. So this was a close game from them. Like we all know, Drakari is very soft, and this mission is based off Purge the Foe. So how the trades are going is a big deal in the tempo of the game, and it's really palette dependent, right? Drakari is one of those kind of glass cannon factions, but I like to see all those Talos and stuff. You're glad you have tank buzzers for them because those guys were really annoying point to kill before. The Void Raven, almost no answers to interact with it. You either completely ignore it and kill everything else, or you commit to killing it, which might leave you exposed to getting killed by it. All right, so really cool matchup. You can see he's already dealing with like odd kind of tools and utility pieces that the enemy can bring to his attention. We have 10 gifted wall-tacted memberships from Wicked Joe. Whoa, to our boy Wicked Joe. Thank you, buddy, for that. Thank you for the support. Glad to see you around. I know GW be frustrating us, but it's time for you to get stuck in, lad. Let's go. And while you tooth snatcher. So thank you very much, Wicked Joe. Super generous of you. And supporting the Great WAAAGH, these Ork players right here. And so we go into his third round, where he faces, and shout out to our members, we're gonna do another video on there about the hunt. So if you want to see that, check it out. We're gonna do that on Monday with our boy Brandon, the most known the hunt pilot there is right now. So check that out in the members video. So on his game 3, we go to the Ultramarines. Shout out to you, Tooth Snatcher. Whoa, Tooth Snatcher. So Ultramarines, Gladius Task Force. So we have Manius Calgar, Rebute Gileman, and Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, followed by 2 5-man Assault Intercessors, Company Heroes, Infiltrators, Scout Marines, 2 units of Basilisk, a Lancer, a Predator Destructor, a Vindicator, Clady Assassin, and a Ministorum Priest. Salute. So, love to see the Space Marines. So like we spoke about before, how it wants to execute as any kind of warhorde kind of style army would want to do is hit them so hard that they are crippled. But in this case, because you lack fight on death, you lack artist nails, it could just be I lose my attrition a little bit too early here. Now, as for this mission, it was still layout 1, but we'll see it was linchpin, fog of war, tipping point. So I think in this matchup, it really went to like I spoke about when we started the video too, is sometimes when you're playing against Space Marines, because of how like efficient they are, if you let them kill your assets a little early, and then you decide to commit to them and you really just kind of kill their screens and maybe one of their viable units, a Ballista's Dreadnought is not valuable to the Space Marine player. They want you to come out with your tank buster unit, kill it, and then they kill you with something else, or the Lancer, for example. Right? Vindicators are built to be smoke and try to tank a bunch of your damage and match up on you. So it's a winnable game. By all means, it's a winnable game, but it could very much get into those matchups where they take some of your assets, you call your WAAAGH, you shoot at them, you charge at them, they do some interrupts, they do some heroic interventions because they have endless CP, so they can just keep playing the game however they want. And then, you don't get the results you want, not to mention you don't have, the WAAGH on demand necessarily anymore. And the Cladius Assassin can make that cost even more. So you really don't have it. So, yeah. Still does crump Marines for sure. Absolutely. Ignoring cover, additional AP, all that stuff, freaking sick. But it really does come down to sometimes Marines can sometimes just kill you too effectively, and a good Space Marine player can create layers and screens so you can't get to their valuable assets, and then buzzsaw through you and scoring just enough late game. And you can see that was a close game because it was a 8-point game. So we go into this 4th game, which is the Imperial Knights. So we got Canis Rex, 4 Helvrins, 5 Glaives, Cladius Assassin, Sisters, Battle Squad, and an Emulator. So this was one of those picked up lists from the Art of War guy who ended up winning a GT, and he brought these emulators. How they're used is, hey, now Knights can actually play within terrain, can play primary, can do secondary missions, and stuff like that. So that's how that list kind of plays out. Not too dynamic, pretty straightforward gatekeeper kind of army to expect. That was day 4, right? So then we move on to day 4. This was actually Now, 3, a little bit of an unusual one sometimes to play. We have mission A, so old classic mission of taking hold, raise banners, and tipping point. So what if there is, in my opinion, what to say about how you play knights is a lot of the time it's what's your wall commitment going to be, which is sometimes based off how the knight player kind of invests into you. Like if they just don't respect your orc army and they just come out in the open and try to bang it out and kill everything, well, then you might be able to call a wall and pick up 4 or 5 knights on the wall respectively. But if you commit all your tank busters to Canis, for example, and then he doesn't die, and then he gets to reply with all his baby knights, well, in that sense, you're having a hard game. So based off it being taken hold, it does come into a factor of, can I, get him to kind of over commit to certain units and kill 4 to 5 of his baby knights, make sure I really interact and kill that sister's unit with the immolator squad a little bit early, throw some flash gets, some mandos into it, and really try to get it out of there, because that's really where they want to score their secondaries and how they can slow play the game, and then they have to feed you the knights at that point. If they don't give them to you, then that means the knights are coming forward and you can start killing those guys. Canis Rex is an opportunistic kill. You could bait him with a battle wagon because none of the other baby knights are going to pop the battle wagon in that case. And then if he comes out to play, all the tank busters get out and pop him. And then they go off and start charging things. So I absolutely like to see that too. Knights are going to have a hard time because you do still get to give additional AP and only one of them gets to rotate. So everybody else is just taking 5-ups and getting kind of chipped down even from flash gets. I mean, I've had flash gets with stratagems greatly damaged knights by popping lethals on their own from baby knights. So it does seem like a one-sided matchup, but Breaker Boys going into Canis absolutely devastate him as well. So he does have a bunch of weapons to deal with all these vehicles and such. So I love to see it. So then we move on to his, and he did win that one with the 14-point win. So it was his highest win of the week, but he was having a lot of good games. And then we go into his last game, which was also against Chaos Knights. So, like we always say, Knights kind of gatekeeper army, where if you lose some games or you're right there in the beginning, you're going to have to face them. You're going to see them because they're right there holding the mid-tables hostage sometimes. So here we have the good old classic Knight Rampager, Stalker, and then probably Baby Knight Spam. So 5 Brigands and then 3 Carnivores. Or it's like 6 Brigands. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 Brigands. Okay. So he's all shooting, which is kind of good for you because he does have tank busters and stuff. And you can take saves, like we were talking about the coolness of a flash get. It can somewhat survive a Gatling from a barrage from a brigand. Now, not the whole unit will still be alive, but doesn't mean they're all dead from getting small arms fire. Just saying. So love to see that. And as for the mission, it was Scorched Earth. Oh, let me show it up here. Hello. We have Scorched Earth, Stalwart, and then Search and Destroy. Like we always say, Mandos are extremely important for your search and destroying. I would hate to see you guys not be able to move out and take off 4 corners of the table. Really hampers your reserves. Let the enemy get the initiative on you. Lets them kind of hold the tempo and score all the secondaries. So you need something fast. It either needs to be able to jump, it needs to be able to get over there with fly, or it needs to be able to infiltrate. Something needs to be able to play the search and destroy. And yeah, as a Snickrod enjoyer, Snickrod needs to go down to at least 185. I mean, 85, not 185. What the heck? But shout out to you for that one, my boy Juan. It was another 13-point win there on the bait and the dog spam. That's kind of sometimes just a skill check sometimes as an Ork player when you run tonight, right? It's like sometimes, you do lose the game. It happens. But when you overcome them because of their simplicity of playing, you really are kind of playing the uphill battle a little bit as the Ork player against Knights. It feels really good when you pull back-to-back wins on them to end out the event. Big stompy guys just feel thematic for an Ork army. But that's also why we see these triple tank buzzers being brought, right? So as we all know right now, everybody's like, well, that's it. GW is going to nuke tank busters again. They very well might. But I would hope GW also goes around and pays attention to all the reason why tank busters are being brought in such redundancy and stuff like Breaker Boys, because the meta is full of these cheap transports, tanks and armored chassis. And I like that. I think GW at least found a way to get them incorporated in the game in a cool way. But it's a bit much, and it does kind of make you have to tech into these things for reliable outcomes as an Ork player. So if GW does go along the way and starts nuking stuff, I hope they nuke themselves first with their nerfs to themselves because they need to chill out. So we have Big Mac, 2 units of shock attack guns, a mech, 2 war buses, 2 trucks, a battle wagon, 2 units of breaker boys, 3 flash kits, a big brick of aggression for the backline screening, Mandos for their frontline screening, 2 storm bully units for scoring, and then 3 units of tank blusters. So shout out to Juan for his More Dakka. Whoa. And we move on to last, but certainly not least. I did not forget, and nor were you tricked yet. We do see another Stompa Dread Mob list. Yes, the last list was another Stompa. Not making it up. I'm not just yanking your chain. We out here, guys, with Ari Chain going 4-1 with another Stompa variant. Wait, there's a Stompa not put on the list. I just messed it up. I'm lying to you. I lied to you. I don't know why I said Stompa. This was not a Stompa variant. It was a Dread Mob variant. I don't know why I said Stompa. What the heck was I saying? This was the triple tank buster variant. Now, what it did have is triple mech guns. So I don't know why I said Stompa. I was tripping. I was thinking about earlier. This was a triple mech gun. Yeah, like I said, where's the Stompa? Yeah, well, now you guys know. Now you guys gonna clip me and was making stuff up. But this was another version of Dakka or WAAAGH. So this was another version of Dakka WAAAGH. Only 1 looter, 3 tank busters, 3 mech guns, 4 trucks. But was very interesting on this list was 2 10-man units of beast bosses. So from top to bottom, the list was Zagrot Wartsnagger, 2 beast bosses, a Big Mac with Get Finder goggles, followed by another Big Mac with custom Mega Blaster and Power Claw. So both of the Big Macs had Power Claws. 1 Big Mac with Shakatukin as the Warlord with Smoky Gubbins, so he has stealth, followed by 2 more Big Macs with shock attack guns. So that is 8 characters on this list, guys. And if you know me, you know that I say I always get kind of antsy when I start to see 7, 8 characters on the list. But he made this work, and shout out to you because that's crazy to make it work. Anyways, here, fun, very fun thematic list here. So he has 2 units of beast bosses, so he has 2 units of 10-man Snagger Boys, a big unit of Gretchen for Zod, followed by 3 minimized use Gretchen, Ludas, a Storm Boys unit, 3 tank buster units, and then 3 mech guns with smasher guns. Now, before you guys come at Ari, he didn't use the tractor cannons nor the bubble chuckers. Now, I'll play devil's advocate for him. Tractor cannon is because wait until you anti-fly keyword is great until it's not. And then you simply have 1 shotguns that you just spend all those points into. 2 is the bubble chucker. Now, bubble chucker is awesome. It just simply takes too much time to roll them, and it's unreliable. It's like what targets you want to prioritize with it, what character you're going to attach to at the beginning of the game to get those results that you want. So it ends up being the smasher gun because he takes advantage of more Dakka. It takes so you can re-roll the whole hit roll. It takes advantage of big shells for bigger gets. So it being strength 9, now can get +1 to wound, and then it goes to flat 4 damage. So it looks like another similar profile to the tank buster profile, but you're spending the CP and dropping it into it because the tank busters don't need it in this case. So the mech guns do come out with that utility. Now, the big mech allows them to actually move through terrain pieces. So if you're a cunning get, you can actually set them up, stage out, and get into a firing lane, which is pretty sick. But you can also put a Big Mac with shock attack gun on them, put them in a long firing lane, and bring them in from reserves because the smasher guns are 48-inch range alongside the Big Mac with shock attack gun in that case. So you can just simply get the big long range shots and then put the Get Finder, the Smoky Gubbins on him so that he's -1 to hit on that unit, and then you can reduce damage by 1 on that unit as well to kind of give it a little bit more longevity. The other shock attack gun can go on the looting unit so that the looting unit can actually be really potent on Overwatch and give it lethals. Or some people like to put the Big Mech on it to give it kind of versatility to fight and punch. Of course, if you do decide to put the tank busters with the Big Macs, the Pulsar Rock gives a -3 AP on those custom Mega Blasters, and then you still get sustain and all button access. The Snagger Boys are interesting because it's a better way to play the flanks on like certain layouts, like mission layout 8, for example, where it's very, very hard to get firing lanes for your Dread Mob. So let's say you're playing a GW layout 8 or 7. The Beast Bosses, and I don't know what layout he was playing. I wasn't privy to that this time. I could see why he teched into these things because he wants to be able to kind of move through the terrain and also charge up and fight people on the objectives that he can't get a line of sight to. So let's take over Let's take a look at his path to victory and his imaginary Stompa list. I don't know why I said that. I was tripping. Someone earlier was telling me there was a bunch of triple not list, and I was like, did I miss that too? But I didn't. We're good. So we have his list going forward. Now, he did lose his first game, but he got an 86-point win, so I made the exception because it was a very good close game, and it was still a Dread Mob list that we're going to see with variations. So I know some people say, well, it's submarining, it's this, it's that. Well, you would still be proud if you win 4-1 in an event. I promise you that. So especially if your loss was an 86-point win, you're like, well, that was close, right? So let's take a look at his first game where he lost, but it was against the Adeptus Custodes. Sorry, guys, I'm like yapping. I drink that water real quick. So we have 2 Blade Champions, Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle Jetbike, and then Valerian. 2 units of Caladia's Grav Tanks, triple Wardens, 2 Prosecutors, 1 unit of Ventress Praetors, followed by Witch Seeker. Not that I'm going to simplify it because I don't know missions, don't know layouts, I can't too much, so we're just going to keep it general here. You do have the damage to annihilate these guys. Dreadmob does have the capabilities between reactive moves to stop them from getting where they want to be on their charges sometimes, and they have to put their small arm fire into the grots. But it does, keep them a little bit further back to a certain degree. You do have a bunch of damage 3, but at the same time, this is very dependent on did you roll your 4-up invulns. If you did, I'm kind of dead. And Wardens, and because you're kind of 1 activation in this list, 1 phase, they kind of know when to pop to feel no pain. That being said, he still made it really, really close. With an 86-point loss there. So when I looked at the guy that he beat, it was a 89-point win. So he only lost by 3 points. So that's just like a secondary here or there. That's the reason why, even though he lost his first game, I still was like, it's all good to show his list because he did a great freaking job. So shout out to you. So then we move on to his second list because I think Custodes are everybody's taking a loss to Custodes sometimes early on, but that was still a great job by him. But then he moves on to just demolish everybody else. So next game is against Shadow Legion Demon. So we have Bloodmaster, a Great Unclean One, Lord of Change, 1 unit of Bloodletters, a Nurgling, 2 units of Plague Bears, triple Beast of Nurgles, followed by the Flamers, and then 2 units of Fleshhound, followed by Plague Drones and Screamer Killers. Then Allied Chosen, followed by Allied Cultists, and a Dark Apostle unit. So as for Dread Mob and these sort of matchups, as we spoke about, obviously you have so many greater demon killing capability here, which was the interesting part of him actually bringing the beast bosses. Now, the fun part is Zagrot gives you the capability to kill or hold back a lot of the other trash. So if you can get charges off on multiple Fleshhound units, if you can get charges off, and yes, I will still say the Plague Bears, even though I'm aware that they can punch up, still enough to keep them back, not getting into the objective, interacting with their OC in the game, and they're slow to trying to get up there later. So being able to close the distance on the Flamer units because they're quite annoying as well. Let Zod punch into them, for example. And then when the enemy reacts to kill them with the greater demons, because none of these demons that he has on his list other than the Chosen can deal with Zod in 1 punch necessarily. It means that he has to kind of everybody jump on him. So Ludus come out early, start dealing with overwatches, playing the early game as if you play and try to drip feed me stuff. I'm just going to shoot it. Everything's on the objective, and then Overwatch, Mac guns coming in from strategic reserves or coming in through the terrain. So absolutely love that. I think it's going to take reps with this list because it is very just I shoot you heavy and I don't have a bunch of melee other than the 2 units of Snaggers, but hey, that works out. 3 units of melee and then some Ludus punching and Tank Busters additional punching means that there is some combined assault going off here on the wall, and then you can obviously always push the button if you have a mech attach, which like all these units do besides the Snagger units because they have Snagger bosses. They're getting lethal buttons as well. So I think it's sick. I think this is a very this archetype has been thought about and made up in lists and used, but most people stray away from it because it's so character heavy. So it's really nice to see that, even though I will say it's an exception, it has a lot of foundational tools here that I think a lot of us can build upon or learn from and try to incorporate into our Dread Mob list, even if we're more Walker savvy gets, because I know some people are like, well, I like walkers. Well, me too. So that's why we look at this with just for a train of thought. Then we go on to his third game, where he goes into Imperial Knights. We have Canis Rex, Crastus Lancer, followed by Knight Crusader, followed by 2 units of Helvrin, 2 Warglaives, and then Cladius. So this is I want to destroy other knights. If this was a Stompa list, the Stompa list would be getting annihilated. But because it's not, and I have a mass infantry list, and all of these infantry units can take a chunk out of you. This was I just annihilate and shoot you and take. You taking 3 and 4 damage shot throughout the game. So 96-point win there. Love to see it. If you get close and the snagger punches you, if you take too long to get close and Zod moves slowly up the field towards you, and then he wraps multiple of your big knights, and then you still want him and kill everything else. So that game is very rough for the knight player, in my opinion, based off the tools that he had. And then we go on to his 4th game, where he goes into the Yanari, where he has the Visark, Yavrin, Yunkarn, followed by Cabalite Warriors, a Wave Serpent, followed by 2 Venoms, 2 Dark Reapers, 2 Fire Dragons, 2 units of Howling Banshees, Rangers, 2 units of Striking Scorpions, Warlock Skyrunners, Warp Spiders, Wind Riders, and Incubi. So good old Yanari, sorry, what I'm talking about. Good old Yanari. Surprisingly, he did get an 80-point win here. Now, I'm not going to discourage, the win, but I will say, at this point, you are playing more in the middle tables because you've come back and won several games, but you're still not at the top tables necessarily because you lost the first game. So I would say there's, not the most elite proficient Yanari player, but it's still a very efficient win. Still a really respectable win to pull that off into Yanari and its current state with what someone would consider a completely off the meta, off the wall Dread Mob list. It really comes down to the fact that on the wall plus Zod plus your anti-tank capacity means you have all the weapons for all of his profiles, and he's never going to be safe from you at any point. And he always has something to interact with you. And the longer he tries to prolong the game, the more table space you pick up. And then once you get to the center line, you call a wall and he gets run over. It's not simple like that. Of course, they get a bunch of shenanigans, but it really does come down to he does have really effective profiles for killing those units. It's really just that I think Ari just had a good time of understanding his staging potential, possibly even knew the missions before he was going into this, and was able to kind of practice and maneuver it, because the Snagga units makes me think that he had like good insight to what he had to do here. Not that I know this, just saying I think so, because we go into this last matchup where he goes into Eldari again. And this is the Devoted of Yanid. So this was his same team, nerd team. So I know sometimes teammates don't really play each other because they're from far away from each other, but there are times where they play each other at a time. So it could be they're familiar with this opponent. So he has Yunkarn, Yavrin, and Artark. The Yunkarn I actually bought for my nephew because he's an Eldar player right now. He's about to graduate college, so I'll take Xavier. But that's funny. I'm very familiar with that Eldar unit. And normally I'm not familiar with Eldar. So we have Cabalite followed by 2 units of Dark Reapers, 2 Fire Dragons, 2 Howling Banshees, 2 Striking Scorpions, 1 Warp Spider, an Incubi, 2 units of Reavers, or 3 units of Reavers. Oh, there's nothing on the screen. Yeah, look at that. The Warp trying to get on us. Shadow of the Warp coming in down here, boy. A Wave Serpent, a Raider, and then a Venom. So before we get bopped out of here, before the screen drops, not gonna act like I know a whole bunch about that matchup necessarily in that case, but he did get a 97-point win, and it was a odd meta, Eldar list. But shout out to Ari for pulling this off with his really, really unique Dread Mob list. Now, I will say, like I always say, these lists are not intended for you to simply copy paste and utilize in that way, because even me myself, I would have such a difficult time trying to pilot a list that had 8 characters heavy, one of those being a slow but mecha unit, and then 2 of those units being Snaggas that simply don't take any abilities from the detachment, or just great on their own, which isn't like a detriment. I'm not saying that makes it hard to play. I'm saying really, really unique in that case, because a lot of the time people are just playing typical Dread Mob, either all the Dakka or a little bit of Walker. In this case, I like that he put the Snagga because that's something that's always yapped about. And the Big Mechs are such a cool, great utility piece. I love to see it. I totally encourage that more Ork players try to make the Big Mech work. Rerolling advances is sick. His capability of fighting a damage 3, his keyword access, his point cost at being 70 right now. He does have good play. And honestly, if tank busters go up and the shock attack gun go up and Big Mech stays the same, he might be the differential of what allows you to keep playing tank busters. So the sooner you get familiar with him, the more chances you'll have to be skilled with him. So with that being said, shout out to all you guys in chat that were super supportive and up in the comments and giving us a shout out. It was a big deal. I was very excited to show the Dread Mob. You guys know I'm a big Dread Mob fan because, you know, that's been the detachment that I think has been slept on. It's very fun and brings different utility that other detachments don't bring. But also I'm excited about our sponsor, the Forge Fire Gaming. So check them out in the description with their high quality tournament terrain style terrain with acrylic bases with slotted holes so that you can get nice precise measurements, staging, and placement on all your units. Easy build. And check them out with a link in the description, and that would help the channel. So thanks to you guys, and awesome to everybody who's participating. I do think, and shout out to Jay Hugh, and I'm bringing the Stompa, the GT next month that I mentioned on the channel. I'm going 0-5. No, you're not. How are you not? How are you gonna? After we just show a Stompa list several times again, you're gonna say you go 0-5, homie? Go on now. Get some faith in yourself. You think that way in the grotty way, you're gonna be grotty. So yeah. More kilocans list. Yeah, and actually, you guys, like we said, we're gonna do 8 hours. So we're gonna do after action reports where I'm gonna, you know, be using my list. I'm gonna get used to taking all the notes and recording my game. You guys are gonna see live recordings because I don't have the studio, but it'll allow me to get, you know, more pictures or just visuals of everything and remember what actually happens per turn. That's the value to recall. So check out the polls and leave a comment on what units you'd like to see me bring and what styles and archetypes you see me bring. You know, I'm pretty can heavy. I'm pretty can savvy and Stompa, and I like my Dread Mob and whatever it may be. So I'm going to use that. So of course, interact, leave a comment, and there's always one thing to keep in mind: is don't cross our wall because we'll knock your teeth out. Whoa.